Since Pokemon Legends Arceus Reveal, we've known that a lot of the characters are the ancestors of characters we already know from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, Black and White, Sword and Shield, and more. And it turns out that's very true to the highest degree. It may be fan service, but it's pretty fun too. Everyone is an ancestor, besides two of them, Ingo and the player character, both of which were sent here from the future by Arceus. They wouldn't dare imply that the main character you play as would ever make babies, so they had to isekai it, you see. Unless, of course, this is an I'm my own grandpa situation. I mean, you never get sent back to your time. Either way, Akari/Ray, the player character that you aren't, descends into Dawn or Lucas. Maybe both. Maybe you. Maybe this is you meeting your great-great-great-grandfather. Now, let's cover the most obvious first. Kamado, the commander of the Galaxy Expedition Team, is the ancestor of Professor Rowan, and interestingly, his armor is near identical to Wickstrom's. And it's mentioned that the armor is in fact from Galar, though this doesn't mean that they are related by blood. Cylene's descendants would descend into madness and give birth to Cyrus. You know, I'd hate the universe too if my family didn't have eyebrows. Kogita is very obviously Cynthia's ancestor, and their blood is the blood of the local ancients, which theoretically Volo is. There is no indication that Volo and Kogita get together and eventually their descendants are Cynthia. In fact, according to their interactions, they barely know each other. And given that Volo's Greek-styled attire matches the aesthetic of Spear Pillar, and he has knowledge of the ancient retreat, which only they should know about, and he has knowledge of Giratina, despite the statue and all evidence of Giratina being ruined, and his comments about his own blood, and waiting for centuries for this, the main theory is that Volo traveled here from the distant past. He needs to get at Arceus, and will continue waiting for the next opportunity. And of course, there is a lot more with him. Here's a video by Birdkeeper Toby all about that. I highly recommend it. And before we move on, I gotta say, egad, do these people have strong genes? Genetics don't really work like this. Yeah, there's kids who look near identical to their parents, and there's plenty of people who pick up a trait or two from their grandparents, but outside of European aristocracies and the opposite, people mix enough that family trees start to lead to more and more diversity, especially in such a cosmopolitan world like Pokemon's. But I get it, it's fiction, and this is fan service, as well as just easy shorthanding, meaning rather than having these characters explain the relationships that they have with other characters, they can just look the same and let the audience easily piece it together. It's like tropes, archetypes, and cliches. It's shorthand. Though, some hands are shorter than others. Let's keep talking about the most obvious. Mai is related to Marley, and Marley is actually named Mai in the Japanese games, further solidifying that. Sabi's descendants include Cheryl. Rai gives rise to Riley. Zisu, well, that's just Flint's clown hair, isn't it? Only longer, and this would make her related to Buck as well, Flint's brother. Ginter to Volkner is easy. Depression runs in the family, and his love of gizmos and gadgets may lead to Volkner eventually being an electric-type gym leader. Kolza not only has the same hair as Gardenia, Sinnoh's grass-type gym leader, but he's also in charge of Jubileef Village's agriculture. Antha, the clothes lady, is the ancestor of Darach. I guess they kept up with loving fashion and class. Gayrick, Warden of Avalog, the glacier iceberg, is Wulfric. I mean, the love of ice, the hair, the name being Northern European, and heck, Wulfric's saying fits Gayrick perfectly too. Tough as an iceberg, hot as a furnace. Though there's also big Crasher Wake energy here, a Sinnoh gym leader. Perhaps they're related, perhaps it's coincidental. Clover to Candace is another super obvious one, and she's an older sister to Coin, who's Saturn, and then Charm is the eldest of the sisters, and is my favorite example of this. Charm is a mother of sorts to both Agatha and Bertha. In Black and White 2, Chantal mentions that Bertha and Agatha look similar, but that's as far as their connection ever went, until now. With Charm, we have a linking point in their family tree, as Charm, currently in Hisui, which is Sinnoh, where Bertha is, mentions that she used to live in Kanto, where Agatha is, and the other two bandits she's with each only use one Pokemon, the same partner Pokemon that their descendants will use. Meanwhile, Charm here uses two Pokemon, the Pokemon used by both Agatha and Bertha. It's so good! Leon is clearly related to Clay, whose whole deal in Black and White is that he's the Japanese businessman who moved to America and adopted their customs trope, doing so for business reasons. So now we know his ancestors were from Sinnoh, at least at some point. And did you ever notice the portraits found in the Diamond and Pearl clan buildings? They depict people who look like the ancestors of Alder, Archie, and Maxie. Perhaps Alder's ancestor is the hero from thousands of years ago we hear about. And Archie and Maxie's ancestors formed the Diamond and Pearl clans. And maybe someday we'll form the Gnoggin clan with our new t-shirt design called The Original One, which celebrates just how cool Legends Arceus is. It's now available on Noggin.net in a variety of sizes, and every purchase helps us afford food for Sasha, as well as our editors, if there's enough left over. Subtle gamer merch has always been my favorite, and so are shirts that are as soft as these. Check out Noggin.net with the link in the description, and thanks for even considering. Now then, that's it for the extremely obvious ones. They get a bit harder now. You may need to do some theorizing or further adjust some looks just a tad, and it's important to remember that what's important here are the superficial resemblances, not the minor technicalities. It's true that looks change through generations and that hairstyles can change literally whenever, but things like this tend to be the point of shorthand fan-servicey things like this, especially in trope-dependent media like anime as a whole. And while true, not every character needs to be the descendant of a modern one we know about, perhaps there's some Gen 9 ancestors here, I do think it would be strange to only have 1 or 2 characters with unique models, meaning non-generic NPCs, that don't reference anyone. Who knows? Well, Kalaba might be an ancestor to Mina, the tired eyes, the chill vibes, being a warden of another very bored-looking normal type. Plus, she's got the thin eyebrows and a very similar hairstyle. In fact, it's kind of the same, minus the tails. Oh, and because I know it'll be in the comments section, the concept art book for Legends Arceus that recently came out has a picture of her when she was younger, and this clearly disproves this idea. Clearly. The only point it really pulls against it is that her hair was black before it turned gray, and that's a fair point. Maybe instead of being an ancestor to Mina, she just never had kids because of how deeply religious and sour-faced she is. Though I'm still inclined to say Mina. I just wouldn't bet money on it. But still, same eye shape and color, and always with their backpacks. Anyway, now Azeru is obviously Mars, that's true, but her hair appears to be a mix of Mars and Silver's. Silver's mother is vaguely implied to be Team Rocket executive Ariana, and you can see some relation between all three here for sure. More details in this video here. Songqua is obviously an ancestor of Karen, but could she also be an ancestor to another character as well? In her side quest, while you're looking into her room for something spooky, you look in her closet, and the description of what's inside reads, "There are weird clothes and a cape in here." That's pretty specific. Why would one of Karen's ancestors have that? And come to think of it, Karen has the long, wavy front of Songqua's hair, but not this upward bun bit held together with a gold hairpiece. You know who does have hair in a similar color and styled like that in the back held together with a gold hairpiece? And who also wears weird clothes and a cape? Claire, another Gen 2 character like Karen at that. Then there's also Pacell, who seems to be a mix of both Mira and Pokémon Center nurses. First of all, that's literally Mira's hair, like that's a one-to-one, super obvious, and I suppose her hair was already similar to the nurses at Pokémon Centers, particularly in Gens 5 and 6, so Kalos and Unova, and especially in the anime. To add to this though, she's literally the Galaxy team's nurse, and an NPC named Pippa mentions that Pacell resembles a Blissey, which is fitting, as most Pokémon Center nurses use them. And if all of the Pokémon Center ladies and Nurse Joys tell us anything, it's that their genetics are powerful. Professor Laventon has big Hop energy, right? Which I guess would also make him a forefather to Leon too, since Leon and Hop are brothers. And it's more than just skin color and speech patterns and personality. His clothes play a role in the references here too, all without being too direct, which I really like. His hat is purple like their hair, and it's in a similar shape to Hop's hair, and the puffball is like Hop's puffy jacket and Leon's puffy cape. Not to mention that he's kind of from Galar. His clothing, along with the Galarian wheezing motif in front of the research building, and the fact that he says things like "jolly good," definitely point to Galar. And since Hop eventually starts training to become a professor, it just works well as a callback. Beni, the potato mochi making old guy, has really short, extremely green hair with a little point at the bottom, which leads me to believe he is the ancestor of Cilan. Chilean crest too, but mainly Cilan. They also all work in the restaurant industry and have aprons, and you could take Beni's chin hair and plop it onto the top of his head for silent spikes. But hold on just a minute. In his other outfit, that's literally Wally's haircut, and Wally also wears green. Are Wally and Cilan related? Or is Beni just a part of Wally's family and Cilan is a coincidence? Well, I like the bags under Beni's eyes. Illness and frailty perhaps runs in the family. And he does have a Gardevoir and Gallade. Wally famously catches a Ralts in the catching tutorial. But then, being a lifelong ninja and having white hair that's potentially bleached rather than being natural, could connect him to the Shadow Triad, which would put his descendants in Unova again, along with Cilan. Nothing wrong with common ancestors, and if we consider the Pokemon manga, they do have a thematic connection. Choi is obviously a father of sorts to Charon, and as such, in a way, so is Tao Hua. The whole reason Tao Hua and Choi don't get along is that Choi married Tao Hua's granddaughter, and he doesn't like that. I suppose both of them have the fanning out hair in the back, and Tao Hua's face is a bit more like Charon's, but that could just be attributed to being an old man, and the frown, and the receding hairline. Yeah, I'm comfortable saying both are ancestors to Charon, especially looking at this sprite of him. Here's the first real difficult set. Palina and Iscan. Palina is a bit easier to place as a mother of sorts to Professor Magnolia, and thus also Sonia, who is Magnolia's granddaughter. But what gets tricky is that Palina and Iscan are together, in a forbidden relationship as they are from rival clans, but together nonetheless. Though by the end of the game, the clans begin working out their differences, so maybe they don't have to hide it anymore and eventually have kids. Only issue with that is Iscan looks nothing like Magnolia or Sonia. Granted, I guess genetics just don't work the same way in Pokemon as they do in real life, but you'd think there'd be something. Maybe their kids each took off different parents wholly? Palina's genes passed more heavily into Magnolia? I suppose that's one theory, but here's another. So the ancestors of Archie and Maxie formed the Diamond and Pearl clans, hence their forbidden love. So how great and thematic would it be if they were also ancestors of Archie and Maxie, just not as far back? And specifically in the Mega Universe timeline, so their Oraz depictions. After all, they're paired up, though in opposing clans, and are in an area that is both a calm beach and an active volcano, aqua and magma. Plus, Palina has these oversized, kind of silly goggles, which along with her outfit makes her a traditional pearl diver from that time period, but they are also just stinking that large and prominent in her design, perhaps as a reference to Maxie's glasses, which are a huge part of his character as it's where he keeps his keystone. And both of these characters have a very similar personality, a serious, no-nonsense attitude, and also she is the warden of an Arcanine who lives in a volcano. Iscan then shares skin tones with Archie, along with aquatic themes, though Iscan just looks more like Matt, a Team Aqua admin, just if he wasn't angry or ripped. Their personalities are like a 180 of each other, but they got the looks. But, again, considering those obvious Maxie and Archie ancestor paintings, it would be a bit weird to reference both their original designs as well as their Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire redesigns that they already kinda retconned with Rainbow Rocket. Though, since multiple Pokemon timelines is confirmed canon now, and this game kinda revolves around a space-time distortion, I suppose anything is possible. But if Palina is to Magnolia, a Galarian, could Iscan be to Nessa, a Galarian? That's what I see online all the time, but remember Pokemon fans, life isn't black and white. There's more than two races. But speaking of Gen 5, Marlon is Unova's water-type gym leader, who has blue, watery hair and a very deep tan, perhaps like Iscan. And he always has his goggles on him, and is a Pokemon diver, net and all, the same way Palina is a Pearl diver, and how she always has her goggles on constantly. So that's a possibility. Maybe in the Pokemon world, the only time genes ever mix is if you're like from totally different backgrounds. Otherwise, your kids just look like you forever and ever. It's a possibility. Adaman now is one of the hardest, though if any character is deserving of being a one-off OC character in this game, someone as important as him would make sense. Again, not everyone needs a descendant that we know of already, but still, there are some possibilities. He could be an ancestor to Buck. Remember Buck? He lives in the survival area of Sinnoh and specializes in Pokemon with high defense and special defense, which is fitting of Adaman as the Diamond Clan leader guy, Diamond Dialga Steel type high defense. Buck also has the two-toned hair, one of those colors being yellow right down the middle, though this would sort of imply Adaman and Zisu get together, which is neat. There should probably be some art of that, but I'm still not 100% certain about this one. Could his hair going outwards in all directions, catty attitude, blue outfit, and hands on hips posing point to Acerola? Perhaps, but it's not as exact as we see Barry and his dad Palmer pose, or Hop and Leon, but it's worth mentioning. Team Aqua's Shelly also does the hip thing and has wild hair with a highlight. Gordy has wild hair with the highlights and the bang, but the best possibility, in my eyes, could Adaman's hair be a wilder version of Professor Sycamore's hair? Sycamore wears blue and black with a gold accent, and look at his necklace and belt, and he has the one long bang thing. He's also a fashionable and good-looking man, just like Adaman. Adaman. Put them next to each other, he just looks like some edgy teen. And as we'll talk about next, many like to point to the similarities between Iridia and Serena, and since they are each clan leaders, I guess their descendants moving to the same region later would make some thematic sense. And yes, so many people ship these two, because of course. So if I had to put money on it, I'd say the professor. Or maybe, just maybe, Adaman is related to all of these people, because I mean, look at him! Adaman is a damn man! Looking so fine, getting around, jeans everywhere. As mentioned, there are similarities between Iridia and Serena. Also may, kind of, which may be intentional, but may be not. You may say, nah, Kalos is hecka far, but that didn't stop modern Gnoggins, and it matches up with Adaman being Sycamore. Serena and Sycamore aren't super closely related, but perhaps third cousins twice removed or whatever. Technically non-related in quotes, but still kinda close on the family tree of everyone. Plus, when battling Iridia in the post-game, she says, I'm going to grow stronger and travel the world. Perhaps then, settling down in Kalos. Her hair kind of resembles anime Serena's hair after the haircut, which I guess original Serena does have too, like the same ends of the front hair. It's just a lot longer. Well, Thule, the Ginkgo Guild member who is always with Ginter. If anyone, she might be a mini great-grandmother of sorts to Volkner. Thule and Ginter are totally together, but other possibilities are Bianca, the caring mom friend who always carries a large bag with her that she struggles to get stuff out of because of just how stuffed it is, like the Ginkgo Guild having their overstuffed bags. Though admittedly the hair isn't perfect. Another possibility is Greta, a frontier brain in Emerald. Though here, it's just the hair. Nothing solid here. I'm not confident. So I'd say just Volkner, or I just don't know. And then, lastly, there's Melli. Melli. Oh gosh. Do you descend into Lucian, a Sinnoh Elite 4 member who looks vaguely similar, I guess? Same hair color, and also is a tad arrogant, perhaps? Are you Jupiter, the only remaining Team Galactic member who otherwise isn't represented in this game, and who also uses the exact same team of Pokémon, but looks nothing like you? Did your ball-loving orientation or arrogant, irritating personality lead you to not have any biological children of your own? Are you Avery? You act just like Avery, and he also has longer hair and a hat, but otherwise, no? Well, what about AZ? He's got the same style of hat, just modernized. And you've also got the general hairstyle itself and the flower on your hat. AZ's all about his flowery floette, though AZ would still kind of be your ancestor too. The dude's immortal and 3,000 years old. And I guess even Millennium Men can have kids throughout that though. Is Argenta one of your descendants? One of Sinnoh's frontier brains? You each have the weird anchor-shaped ends on the sides of your hair. And her hair color is in the same quadrant of the color wheel as yours, and she kinda has a few of the same personality quirks, saying things like, I am your final and most daunting challenge. I dare you to overcome my challenge. And, oh, I detest how fun times end so quickly. Please, Melli, tell me who you are. Who are you, Melli? Who? Do you think this game will get DLC? And if so, will it add more characters that act as ancestors? Perhaps, just perhaps, there will be a character that looks like Jupiter, but doesn't have the same Pokemon team, and they get together with Melli, knock them down a notch, be just as annoying. They just get along so well. An extremely passionate love-hate relationship. Now, personally, I really do like how a lot of the characters are super blatantly obvious, but then others you have to think just a bit. I also like that some don't seem to line up super well unless you consider them kinda mixing down the line, maybe. After all, there's around a century between this game and the modern ones. Probably a touch more. Well, what are your thoughts? Like it? Dislike it? Did I miss any fun connections? I am absolutely certain I did. Let me know down below, and until next time, never stop using your noggin.